Hey, it's Cody. I'm here with a book review today. This is Finding the Fool by Meg Jones Wall. Full disclosure, this book was sent to me by Wiser Books in exchange for a fair and honest review. Um, so this book I've actually had, I think it was since probably late February. I could be mistaken. Um, and I was like, okay, well, this is just another tarot meanings book. Um, so I always approach these stupidly. I like sit and try to like read through it. I fail at that literally every time I try it. So it does have some good information in the front. So I mean, obviously, I should have started that way. I'm glad that I did. But just reading through like card meaning after card meaning never works for me. Um, so I finally ended up giving up. I think I got into like strength or something. And I was like, I can't sit and do it like this. Um, so I ended up just deciding that whenever I drew a card, whether it was, just a daily draw, whether it was for a spread of some sort, whatever it was, I would grab this book and look it up in there. Um, that way I just, hit a lot of places around it. Well, it is the beginning of May now. And I'm actually still working with this. Um, and I'm so glad that I was sent this book because I never would have picked it up on my own. I don't really buy like basic tarot meaning books for myself anymore. Um, it's more like I would be interested in like a guidebook that maybe came with a deck of cards, or if it's sort of coming from a specific angle maybe. um and I would have missed out on this, and that would have been really sad. This is my number one, this is going to be my number one recommendation to anyone wanting to get into tarot. So, and from now on, anytime anyone asks me, I'm wanting to get into tarot, what do I need for this, I'm going to tell them this book and a deck. I have a blog, and it might have been a couple of years ago. Um, I had written about starting with the tarot and how it's just easiest on you always to start with a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And the reason is just because so many books out there are written aimed at helping people understand that specific deck. And while I do still think that it's important, to be aware of it, and it's kind of one of those things that I personally think all tarot readers should know about and probably have a copy of. Um, but I definitely understand not wanting to start with that. There are a lot of really just artistically interesting decks out there right now, and I it sucks trying to convince people um that they should get this crusty old thing with like fucking bright yellow, like fucking Crayola color shit, right? It's not aesthetically pleasing. Um so then this book comes in. So on the back of here, this price shows for the US it's $18.95. It does not show any others. It doesn't even show the Canadian price. So if you're not in the US spending US dollars, I'm not exactly sure how much this would cost you. All right, that shit aside, I want to talk about this book. So it's very intentionally written so that it's not specific to one deck. So a lot of times there will be tarot books that will mention, it'll act like it's not specifically about the Waite-Smith. But then it will mention in the Waite-Smith this, or in a traditional imagery, it looks like this, or this is happening. Or honestly, even worse, they'll mention cards from decks that are like, it'll just be like, in the Druidcraft tarot, it looks like this. And then, like, the next fucking card will be like, oh, well, fucking, it'll have random decks, and it's like, especially if you're new, you don't know what the fuck that even means. So this manages to give a good overview and like a reasonable working understanding of each card with absolutely no references to any actual decks. Um, it's it's been really refreshing, I feel like, to have it presented that way. It almost feels like it doesn't have baggage or something, the way that a lot of other tarot books do, just because it almost feels like you're missing it's for beginners, but you feel like you're missing something. I mean, unless you have the a Waite-Smith deck right in front of you and you're sitting and staring at it, right? Um, so I think this is absolutely perfect for beginners who don't want to end up having to use a Waite-Smith deck first thing. It wasn't my first, well, okay, it wasn't the first deck that I bought, okay? I had borrowed Waite-Smith, and we just used a little white book with it. I say we, like me and my friends when I was in, like, middle and high school. I don't know why I just brought that up. But the first deck that I bought myself, I don't know, it was Deviant Moon or, Terror of the Secret Forest or something. It was something else entirely. They just had little white books with them at the time. And any books that I had access to were always only talking very specifically about Waite-Smith. And I rebelled against that shit so hard. I was like, this deck is fucking ugly. I've already worked with it some. Like, I thought that just, like, reading the little white book had meant, like, that I knew it at that point, you know? I was a kid. So I can understand if you were like, hey, I want to get into tarot, and someone's like, here, you got to use this ugly ass thing in these crusty old books. I would be like, oh, okay, never mind. I wanted to use one of these cool ones. So I think this has a special kind of accessibility to it that just so many of the books don't have. So it does have information on the numerology and astrology of the cards. So it's just such a good foundation even outside of a tarot practice. So the majors in here, I know I'm backwards. I thought I knew how to turn it around, but it didn't work, so we're still mirror image here. The majors each they'll have their, oops, let me get out of here. That's fine. Shit. Alright, so we have the star here. So we've got, it's talking about Aquarius. We've got an 8 and 7 and 1 adds to 8, right, for numerology. There's keywords, there's information about it without being deck specific. And then for the majors, we've got an astrological correspondence part. And then we've also got the numerological correspondence. So for the majors, it has the numerology right there in a little paragraph. For the minor arcana, you have to go back to the beginning where it has a whole section, wherever it is. Okay, someplace in all of this, there's a section for the numerology for all of it, right? So you can look that up, you can go back and look that up. One of my favorite things about this is it's got an in-reading section at the end of all the cards, not just the majors, minors as well. And so it's kind of, it gives you an idea of what the card means and then additionally what it could be in a reading. But my very favorite part is there are journal prompts for every single card. I think that would have been so helpful to me, just even if I didn't necessarily write down like my answers to them, just to kind of see it puts you on the right track to be thinking correctly about the card, right? And we've got them for this is backwards, you can't really see it, but here are journal prompts for King of Wands. So even the court cards have them. So I think this is such a good resource. I had thought last month that I was ready to do the book review on this. And then I realized I had sort of glossed over the astrological correspondences of the cards in this. And then I realized I'm doing that deck and walk that Marlena Teresa is like hosting. And I was like, why don't I look that up in here? Like, she has books that, like, she had purchased for, I don't know, 36 Secrets, and some books that seem kind of interesting, but I'm not really sure that it's something that I would sit down and read myself. But I was like, I have this book with very clear, like, I'm dumb as shit when it comes to astrology. Some part of me, just like with math, it just, and people's names, it just blocks that shit right out. The instant I hear it, it just goes like, wow. So, but I have been looking it up in here. And so I was like, you know what? No, let me work on this some. Um, so I'm finally getting around to this review, but I have been steadily working with this book. And it's given me, I've read a lot of tarot books. I've read tarot for quite a while, and it's really given me even some different perspectives on some cards. Um, I will say that its strength in not being deck specific is kind of also its weakness. Um, because somebody might read this and then, approach a Waite Smith deck and think that they don't really have anything additional to add to their knowledge of the tarot, when like that or the Thoth or like Hermetic kind of shit. Like there's different systems, and I don't want people to think that they've read this and so they know everything about every tarot deck, right? This is foundational. This is the kind of thing that you can build your little card house on, right? So it's written so well. It's down to earth. It's not a bunch of like weird um spacey kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. Just like it's just practical. It's down to earth. It's not so esoteric that somebody new would be like, what the fuck is this? Right? This is a foot in the door, grab whatever deck your little heart desires and get started. So this is a great intro to numerology, tarot decks. It's just so well done. And I'm kind of like, if you ever had something almost bad happen, but in your brain keeps like replaying, like oh my god, I could have fucking had something really bad happen right there. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this book, because I would not have bought this for myself, and I could have missed this. So thank you so much to Wiser Books for sending this to me. Meg Jones Wall, who's also on Instagram, 3am Tarot. Thank you so much for this book. This was just such a nice departure from the way that a lot of tarot books are written. So I'll put a link to this book down in the description box if you're interested in it. Thanks for watching. Bye.